My mission there was to actually talk about three things. Number one is that Brazil, in terms of IT, Brazil is very big. It's bigger than China. And so that was point number one. Point number two was to say that in IT, software and services, Brazil is very good. And number three was looking from the point of view of today, looking ahead 10 years, from several aspects, which I'll comment with you later on. What are the things that Brazil and China could do together? So that was the purpose of my participation. And if you ask me, there's nothing concrete, but the idea is there, and people was relatively surprised with what they saw. What Brazil does with credit cards, it's absolutely fantastic. In e-government, what Brazil does with income taxes, returns, plus what we do in electronic voting, there's nobody to match. In the case of agriculture, we used some examples of ERP done for agribusiness. Of course, mentioning the thing of ethanol and the development of FlexCar, which is an IT, a Brazilian IT solution for the car to be able to perform independently of what is the fuel that you put in it. So those were, and there's a lot of interest because, again, somebody sitting in Beijing has no clue of what is going on here. And they are familiar with ethanol, with soybeans, with corn, with iron ore, etc., 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 but not with those things. So I think it was well received and understood. Number one is the demography. Europe, the United States, and Japan will have declining populations, and if not declining, stable working populations, and Brazil will have a window until 2025 where the working age population is growing rather than declining. Same thing is true for China and for India, for instance, but it is the case of Brazil. So this is tendency number one. Macro tendency number two is that Brazil will be amongst the top 5 economies in the world in 2020. I had lunch the other day with the chief editor of Economist, and he said it's going to be sooner rather than later. So Brazil will be among the top economies in the world in very few years. Then there is the change from the technology point of view with cloud computing, mobile, broadband, and image processing. This is going to open enormous avenues for cheaper applications. When you add those things, the demography, the economy, the technology, immediately opportunities for new applications in health, in education, in security, and banking for non-bankerized people, with all those affluents coming into the mainstream of the economy. Brazil is 30 million, China was 100 million, India was... So there will be a completely new demand that we estimate is going to increase the total number of IT software and service in the world by a minimum $1 trillion by 2020. One is the cost of labor in Brazil. We still have, when you look manpower to manpower, our cost is higher. The cost, the final cost, the total cost of ownership in the end is not that bad because you add the business expertise, you add the knowledge and the smaller turnover of the Brazilian workforce. You add the creativity of the Brazilian workforce that tends to be questioning every single order. You probably have feel this situation on your personal life. You are always questioning, but by questioning, you try to anticipate problems rather than other people that follow methodology and processes very squarely. The mistake appears only in the end, and you have to rework. So this question of the cost of manpower is being currently discussed with the government, which wants to eliminate or decrease substantially taxes on manpower, which will make Brazil more competitive. This is one of the things that is being done at high levels of the government currently. The other thing is Brazil will announce a program for technical training, which I think that the project is to train in the next 4 years 4 million people in technical levels, including everything, and IT as well. So this is going to substantially facilitate the pyramid of manpower, lower the costs, and so on and so forth. The program is there, and it's good. I mean, if you ask me, has it been successful? The answer is no, not yet. I mean, from a technical point of view, it's there. It's ready to use. The logistics of putting it in place haven't been that good. So we are working in the logistics, the way we do it. For instance, this training program that the government is going to announce, I don't know the details, specific details, but from highlights of the program, is that the government will finance the student to go to this training and will finance the companies to hire these people. So, because one of the problems that we had in our training is that the student doesn't stay all the time in the program for two reasons. One, it's expensive. The other is that he is getting job offers even before he finishes. So you have to balance. The guy says, well, look, I love to work here, but I can't pay 500 reais a month for this course. So with this logistics of giving money to the student to do the course, eventually, because from a technical point of view, it's ready and it's good. When you link this with my previous speech to you that, cloud computing, mobility, broadband, image are going to be determinant in the future, this is clearly linked to innovation. I mean, if the Brazilian companies do not include innovation in their package, they won't be able to compete. We will continue to have nice, incredible solutions based on software or solutions that have been developed abroad. Capgemini move has to do with the Brazilian IT market that is so appetizing. So they came in, the best way for them was to buy somebody that was already here. we have seen this tendency. I receive here on a weekly basis companies that are interested in entering into the Brazilian market, are interested in buying existing Brazilian companies and so on and so forth. So innovation was not what, at least to the extent that I know, was not what determined that. But one of the discussions amongst corporate people, government people, is that there is a need to have 2 or 3 reasonably large Brazilian-owned companies to make sure that the innovation is developed here. Nothing against the big companies. They are part of the effort and they're welcome and so on and so forth. But we need, for us to play a role of one of the top nations in the world, we need to have our own capabilities to develop and innovate. We change our role on a daily basis. Because for somebody that is in the IT industry to say, this is my thing.
There's no 5-year plan.
Absolutely. There's no 5-month plan to be exact. So we have to be changing every single day. Today, exporting from Brazil may be less attractive than it should be. However, people are beginning to see one thing called the total cost of ownership. I mean, let's face it, when you buy a service from Brazil, I mean, if you are in New York, you can count on 300 weekly flight, non-stop 10-hour flights to Brazil. Okay? With all of the turmoil in the industry, you still have that. Instead of 15 hours or 20 hours with 2-3 stops to go from one place to the other. When I need a solution that is very in-the-box solution, I send it to India. Because I'm sure that 3 months later, I get the result back. Most of the time, wrong. When I need something that's creative, I send it to Brazil. I will not get it back in 3 months. There will be delays. But in the end, it will come right. Because in the very first day, they will start asking questions. Brazil, the workforce is very creative. Therefore, if I tell them jump, they say, how can I jump from the 15th floor? I suspect that if you go to China or India, jump, they will jump because somebody told them to jump. So, in the end, the total cost of ownership is comparable. And we are beginning to see many people say we are switching to Brazil. So, in the long range, as soon as we solve this problem of the tax in the payroll and a couple of other minor points, I think Brazil will be very competitive internationally. So in the long range, I don't think that we should decrease the exports, but there is a lot to be done in the Brazilian market.